mean, like maybe Joran Vandersloot. Good
Yeah.
example. Okay, that guy would look like the Boy Scout next door in his early pictures. Right now in the pictures, he's not looking too good.
He
but,
does look pretty clean cut.
oh
It's
yeah, a
hard to
few years
imagine
ago,
him.
and you imagine someone like that, or like
He looks
last
more
year's.
innocent than the Bundy guy because he's young, you
Yeah.
know, and he looks just like a.
Well, last year's Craigslist killer that was found up in the Northeast. I mean, he and his fiancee looked like the couple on top of the wedding cake, and he was a graduate medical student. Good-looking, well-educated, articulate guy, charismatic individual, but obviously that wasn't really what lay inside.
Could you actually get, you know, and you think about these people, they all have a relationship with other people. You know, they like have a wife or they have a girlfriend and be like, I didn't know, he seemed like a nice mannered kid or a man. And so there must be some, I don't know if there is a profile from that and how they even act in their own life. And you'd hate to look at your neighbor going, where did the, you know, he doesn't like cats, therefore he must be a serial killer.
Not necessarily on that line, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, the whole thing is, the main thing is we try to avoid stereotypes. Don't judge a book by its cover. Just because someone is unshaven or disheveled in their appearance, don't assume they're necessarily a threat. But by the same token, the person who seemingly has their act together, that's nice and polished, don't assume that they can't be a threat.
And they're a little bit more organized because we are talking about tough and economic times, so they're kind of ready for you to be, they're coming across with an idea, maybe even a plan. So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so sometimes that one person turns into three or four.
Right.
Yes, do you have a question?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Jeff, do you distinguish between the person who is a serial predator and a person like someone went out with or met on Match and they ended up in the morgue, but that was the only time that ever happened? That it happened to be quote unquote a crime of passion rather than just do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
Back in 1989, one of the national news media conglomerates contracted I and my mentor to go in the Missouri State Prison System. We surveyed 1,200 convicted rapists to determine who they targeted, why they targeted, what could these ladies have done to protect themselves. And we really, by just asking open-ended questions, hearing their responses and looking for common denominators, found there were 8 different motivational factors, if you will,
Okay.
of what led them to that rape. And some were more just opportunists. They saw an opportunity, they took the opportunity. Others were more predatorial in their skills, where they set it up. So absolutely, there is a difference. And someone, even a woman, could say, well, at the end of the day, if I'm raped, does it really matter what the person's motivation is? Yes, because there are certain types of those individuals that don't want to leave a witness.
Yeah.
That's a lot different than
You
a
know,
date rapist.
if
I'm
they'll-
not saying
yeah.
that's good, but I'm just saying you better know who you're dealing with, because you may not be around at the end of this.
Yeah, if they're going to rape you, they're going to kill you.
Well, not necessarily. But what I'm saying is you better know who you're dealing
Yeah.
with.
And so that's something that I guess you don't really want to have to develop from experience.
You know,
You know?
hopefully you want to get something on the educational learning curve
Yeah.
before.
And so what kind of groups do you give these presentations to help, you know?
Boy, I mean, it's Butcher Baker, Candlestick Maker. I work with a number of major corporations that bring me in. One just contract me for an August event, bring me in to do 3 seminars, because they have a lot of employees that travel both domestically and internationally. And so they realize these are people in moving targets in airports, hotels, and other places where they're in cities they may not be familiar with, or dealing with cultures they're not familiar with and languages, so they could be perceived as prey. But that same company is also bringing me in because they have a myriad of trucks all over the United States where they're wanting to better educate their truck drivers, so they're avoiding instances of road rage.
And there's hijackings.
There's
out there
hijacking, but
on
also
the-
road rage
yeah.
is a huge thing. So there's just a lot of different types of
They're
groups.
taking trucks. I've seen it on the news where there's been like they'll follow a truck full of stuff and they'll be following them and stop them by the, you know.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, that's
Yeah,
one example.
right.
Another example may be 15 ladies, couples, moms, co-ed, whatever, that bring me into a home somewhere, do a private event for they and their friends.
Yeah, because
so
if-
there's a huge, huge spectrum in there.
Well, if your kid's going to college or they're in high school, or even if you're just, you know, having to go out there at Christmas time, you know, this thing is a basic skill, and everybody just being aware is probably just the best step you can
Absolutely.
take. So I know
Absolutely.
that after taking your course, I am more aware. When I go out there, I'm seeing who's around my car. And if there's someone there, I don't necessarily have to go to my car right away.
Bingo.
You know? I can,
Learn to trust the instinct.
Yeah.
Don't tune it down. Don't turn it off. Learn to use it.
because it can be fast. And
Absolutely.
they can be, and they just hit and run. And then the cops, they're busy. They don't get out there in time to catch them. So you're just sitting there going, I don't know what they look like. So, so you can tell. I mean, I've had some experience with it, but I'm getting better. You know, I
There you
feel
go.
more confident after taking your courses.
Good.
And he does a thing. He does a series, and back you have one. It's a monthly deal, and I've done the gun one, and did I do the gun? No, I didn't do the gun one. I want to do the gun one, but we did. If somebody attacks you with a knife, if someone just accosts you, you know, comes up and sneaks up behind you, and just basic stuff, and I felt it was awkward at first, but you really helped the class and the people in it feel more comfortable about how they would react,
Right.
and to shield and self-defense, because it's not always about maybe hitting the person. It's about making sure that if you're going to be attacked, that you haven't
You protect yourself. Exactly.
You know, in those vital areas. So I'm going to continue on, and because I could talk a lot about that, and I hope that people will go to your website, Defense by Design, and we'll check that out, and also get in touch with you about your series that you have upcoming.
That'd be great.
Because you are going to be doing, you know, you do a lot in the town, and I could talk a lot about it. But I wanted to move ahead here, and you do so much with the networking, and you're just so successful at it, and you're a nice guy too. But how do you typically find, and how do you market yourself?
I market myself through networking. Absolutely. I'm not against traditional advertising, television, radio, etc. But really, doing what I do is really about the personal touch. So people need to see me, need to hear from me, need to kind of get a feel for the sense of the way I present myself to people and their referrals. So networking absolutely is the way I get the word out about what I do. And that's why I traverse the Metroplex area and even beyond.
Traverse. I love that word. That's pretty good.
Thank you, whoever my high school English teacher was. But getting my name out there, and not just my name, but my personality.
Yeah.
Because people buy from people, let's face it. And networking represents a great venue by which you can not only get your business known, but your personality known.
And you're pretty good at match. I mean, when you do these things, your particular networking group. I mean, we've got at Uptown there was 60 people, and that thing can end in an hour and a half because you pretty much that's the discipline that you have, you know. But I mean, but it can be done and very effectively, and then
Yeah.
people visit before and after. But and why do you? So you feel like it's a valuable tool? Or,
Oh, 80% of my business comes directly from networking.
well, and I talked about it here. Is that all the hosts? Well, every host that I have is pretty much I met through some form of networking or someone that I networked that knew them, and so I don't have to lift up the phone. And for somebody that did that for a living, I was a attorney headhunter and had to lift up the phone an awful lot, and I find ways to get past the secretary, but you know, it's just nicer to be able to.
Oh, it's nicer for
Yeah.
someone to introduce you and you wave
Yeah.
to the secretary as you pass by our desk. Yeah, that's definitely
it
the more
is nice. So there's death to cold calling, as Jeff Klein says. So what are the typical mistakes that people make when they network?
I think the biggest mistake, and I've seen this time and time again, and by the way, when you mentioned at the first of the show that I was the founder of NetWeavers, I'm the founder of 2 groups in Uptown, but NetWeavers was around long before me. I've helped spawn a lot of groups. But
I'm at the PC,
Yeah.
the Park Cities
Well,
NetWeavers.
yeah,
and
the
then,
2 Uptown groups I'm directly in charge of, but other people work with. But as a rule, the number one mistake I see is when people enter the room, they try to sell the room. They go in there, and when they do the